This podcast is produced by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada.
Hello, and welcome to Canada as I See It. Hello, and welcome to this week's podcast. Thank you so much, Audrey. Audrey is my niece, and she introduced the program this week. So today is June the 30th, and here are a couple of notes about today. It was on this date in 1859 that French acrobat Charles Blondin crossed Niagara Falls on a tightrope. And a few years later, in 1886, the first transcontinental train trip across Canada departs from Montreal, Quebec, and it arrived in Port Moody, British Columbia on July 4th. And, no, I'm not going to go on. We all know it's Canada Day weekend, and I couldn't get away without saying something about Canada Day, right? Actually, today is also the date a few years ago that I got the original idea for writing and talking about Canada. I started an essay a day thing back in 2020, and it was on this date, or actually tomorrow's date, July 1st, that after wearing 100 t-shirts and writing about them every day, it wasn't much, it maybe got about 250 words a day in there for each one. But on July the 1st, 2020, I wore t-shirt number 100, and on this t-shirt was a stylized flag of Canada. And within that stylized flag was I've discovered, 200 different facts and people's names. And after writing about it, I thought, let's just go into detail. So for the next 2/3 of a year, I wrote about every single one of those facts that were on that t-shirt. And it was from that I decided, hey, you know what? I think you'd like to hear me talk about it. And so I decided to start this podcast, Canada as I See It, and tell you a little bit more about things like, the transcontinental train and such, but also more specifically to the date. And because this is like one of my birthday week type of things, this is the whole weekend, and we just want to talk about Canada. So the shirt. Today's shirt, as I wrote back then, celebrates Canada Day, and this year marks the 157th anniversary of the day in 1867 when, at high noon, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and the province of Canada were proclaimed the Dominion of Canada, with John A. Macdonald its first Prime Minister. And shortly thereafter, the province of Canada became Upper Canada, Ontario, and Lower Canada, Quebec. And it's on that date that you probably see more red and white maple leaves than you'll ever see at any other time in the year. July the 1st is the day that we just go crazy up here, and that's when the patriotism really comes out for us north of the border. One thing I do remember, there are memories for many, many years that I've had, but the first one that I recall was probably my earliest memory. And they say, kids, or adults rather, when you think back, you probably can't go back too far because all memories just sort of blend together. But that summer, that I recall was in 1967. It was Canada's 100th anniversary. And I was 3 years old, but boy, I remember my parents taking me and, well, my new sister at the time. She was just a few months old, Janice. She's introduced the show before. And we went out to a school that my dad had worked at. Fortunately, it was very close to where we lived. And so we walked down, and I remember seeing that stylized maple leaf that they had designed for the celebrations, made up of all little triangles, and it was very, very futuristic looking. And I remember that. I remember the party. People cheering, people smiling. It was something that's always stuck in my memory. And that summer too, at right about this time, would have been shortly after our Toronto Maple Leafs, our NHL team here, had won what has now been noted as their last Stanley Cup. Unfortunately, I don't have many memories of that particular time. It just wasn't into sports. I mean, what 3-year-old was? I just wanted, food, really, at that time. I mean, that part stuck with me throughout my whole life. But, a 3-year-old just wants to be happy and to be fed. And unfortunately, it's been a few years, and just a couple of days ago, the Stanley Cup final concluded this year. So close for the Edmonton Oilers and Canada getting the cup back on this side of the border. But as the saying goes, there's always next year. So really, I hope you're having fun this weekend. This weekend, again, is one of those where I'm going to try and upload it from the cottage. Last weekend, as you figured out, it didn't happen, unfortunately. The one neat thing about that was I did find a kind of cool piece of music, and I think I'll use it occasionally. Here's a bit of a snippet again. Yeah, it kind of sounds like elevator music, right? I got to find that piece of music, and but anyhow, hopefully, as you're listening to me now, I'm lounging in the water, possibly. Fingers crossed that there's no rain. But again, I'll fill you in next week. And I hope you all have a wonderful Canada Day weekend. And please stay safe and take care of yourselves. Just have a good time. That's all that really matters, is just be happy. If you would like to contribute to this podcast, and it's great if you can, I do appreciate it, please send me a recording of you saying, "This podcast is produced by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada." And you can send it to me by email at asiseeit@warpole.ca, or if you're connected with me on Facebook, or even if you're not, because you should be able to see my profile now. I opened it up over the last couple of weeks because I want to give everyone an opportunity to get in on this. And you can send it to me, this recording, James Warpole, WHORPOLE. Thanks again so much to every one of you who listen and download the podcast, and I will talk to you again next week. And that's a part of Canada as I see it. It is written and produced by me, James Warpole, and brought to life by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada. Our theme song is Night Owls by Braden Deal. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at asiseeit@warpole.ca. Join us every Sunday for another episode of Canada as I See It.